It's like literally Inspector Gadget. It's something he invented or helped work on.
I think we've collapsed the time to make data-driven decisions.
Not at all disappointed that we went down the AI rabbit hole. Welcome to Money Mavericks, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of finance, investment, and entrepreneurship.
I'm Kirk Drake.
And I'm Darryl Hicks. Together, we're here to bring you the latest insights, expert opinions from the trailblazers who are redefining success in the financial world. I think it's inevitable that we're going to see a huge productivity boost, and we need it. We need that productivity boost in the economy to get GDP growth, and there's all kinds of other things, and even at the micro level, at the individual company level, the ability to compete. And as much as I feel like, man, it's urgent, and if you don't want to get left behind, you've got to get on using these tools as quickly as possible. It's important to remember too, I think we are still really, really early in this game, and you've got like the Moore's Law, right, and the tech adoption, you've got your early adopters and your innovators and the laggards. I think that curve is going to be much shorter than what we've seen with previous cycles. So that's where the sense of urgency comes in. And I think you're right on the one hand, where we're seeing a whole bunch of new disciplines emerge, new job opportunities. Also, people are able to specialize in where they really provide the most value, where they have real taste or judgment or discernment, things that the GPTs, the large language models, are missing. And so humans are able to not spend their time doing the rote work and able to really specialize themselves. On the flip side of that, I've been having a very long conversation with ChatGPT and Grok, kind of going back and forth between the two of them in a thread about this concept of like cognitive floors. And there's a cognitive floor that exists in order to be able to even just produce and to have a meaningful share in our economy. And the thing that I'm scared of is that part of what these tools are doing is they're raising the cognitive floor across the board. And because when AI first came out with the large language models, like we've been using AI and machine learning at my company FlexBase since 2016. I feel like in a lot of ways we're like the OGs in this industry. But when the large language models came out, it really broke into people's consciousness because now you can talk to the thing. It was this very relatable experience. And a lot of people were saying, oh, AI is going to replace accountants. No, it's not going to replace accountants. You're still going to need an accountant. But what it is going to do is it's going to take out the bottom 20%, 30%, 40% of the bookkeepers and the rote work, the entry level stuff, the easy repeatable stuff. But that's a great place for people to enter into the field and then kind of work their way up the ranks into that more senior position. Or people were like, oh, you're not going to need a lawyer anymore. No, that's not true. Like as an institutionally backed business, my lawyer who understands the ins and the outs and all the details and the art of the deal and negotiating on deals for the fundraising is indispensable, arguably more important than ever before. But he's using AI all over the place. He needs way fewer, paralegals and junior lawyers inside of his team. And so I see this shift where the people that are on the right side of that cognitive floor are like, yeah, I can do this, I can do that, I can specialize, and there's all these new opportunities coming. But I'm worried about more and more people kind of getting left behind. Anyway, that's a little bit more of a philosophical rabbit hole, but I do agree with you that we're going to see a huge productivity boost, and the earlier companies can get on that curve, the better off they're going to be, the more competitive they're going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I've always been a fan of apprenticeships, right? And I think that's more advantageous than ever if you're even able to have these, right? I know a lot of the companies that I talk to, that have 1,000+ employees stopped internships because they're not going to hire those people. They're not going to spend the time training those people anymore because they've already replaced that person when they would come in at a junior level with a GPT or something bot driven or AI created that's already in place. So you're absolutely right, Darryl, in terms of like the level that you used to be allowed to begin your job process at, where now I think you have to start high school or before with leveling yourself up in terms of the education or the application to create things and value out in the world using these tools and showcasing it. I think the college application system is going to get even more difficult for the kids that want to get into college, if that's still a path that is viable in the next 5 to 10 years, realistically, right? Like my kids are in, 4th and 6th grade. Like I don't know if college is going to be a thing for them. Otherwise, I'm training them now on AI. Like I had my 9-year-old writing an email to her future self this morning with AI. Like they just want to be involved because obviously I'm involved and they want to do what daddy's doing. But it's just, like my job as a parent, I think, to educate them and train them as much as I possibly can, because yes, the future is unknown, right? But pretty good idea of, being a futurist and kind of seeing where the puck is headed, for a Canadian reference for you, Darryl, of just like where this potentially is going to go. And, I'm more so back in the day when I was doing product launching, I was all about validation. Today, I've shifted to velocity over everything. Get something out there as fast as possible, test it, iterate it, make moves.
If Warren's been doing 2 finance internships this summer. The first was, and only thing I helped him on the first one was understanding that a PO box won't work for the use case. And so he's got a list of 10,000 addresses, and he needs to go and find out if they're low income designated addresses, because credit unions or banks that have a CDFI certification get special regulatory benefits, and those loans are worth more to them, and they have to keep a certain percentage on the books. So they'll buy them on the secondary market for more. And he needs to, and so he went on to ChatGPT, built the entire thing with JSON, has it hit the census site. It hits a limit at 200. So at 199, it has a pause, and it spits the answer out and gives him all the data on all of those. It took him about 2-3 weeks end to end, having never really used ChatGPT or knows what a CDFI address is, or, address formats, etc. So pretty great for a 15-year-old. And then a second one, he's using AI. We have a coach that's helping him use AI to build options trading strategies and automated bots that do puts and calls and spread calculation, based on trading actual equities and options in the market.
What'd you give him for a startup fund?
$1,000.
He gets to keep the profit, right?
Yeah. Actually, to be fair, he's using his own. Last summer, he worked at the donut shop, and he was like, saved 2-3 grand, and he's like, that's what I'm going to use. I don't want to work at a donut shop again. I'm going to figure out how to get this so it pays for my lunch budget every day.
See, it's all about creating value, right? And solving problems. And the first program is likely something that's sellable, that obviously everybody else would want, and make it as a plug-in or an upsell with everything else that, you're doing on the services side for these folks.
It's so crazy. Like, at 15, think about you, AOL. Yeah. Like, just get in there and start trying stuff. Right.
Absolutely. I think there's still, I'm a parent. I coddle my children. I'm aware of that. There's so much value in, having the kids skin their knees, right? And like fail in front of you, even though it's really hard. Like, I can show you, like, let me just do it. Right. Yeah. And I got to get out of the way. Right. And let them, do all of that, because I think there's such a, fear of failure in this country specifically, right? Of just like, you're competing with everybody else, and the competition side of things is so strong here with sport and everything else, that it's important to kind of take that step back for them and be like, I encourage failure. It is not a 4-letter word in our house, right? Like, I ask them when they come home, like, what'd you fail at today? Yeah. I'm trying to encourage that as much as possible so that they don't think about it as failures.
Yeah. So Darryl, I will say one tidbit of information about Roy that you should know if you ever go to his house. It's the most amazing experience, because every place you turn is a gadget. It's like literally Inspector Gadget of something he invented or helped work on, especially in the gym. The number of, you must, like 90% of your business must have been home fitness.
We did a lot of products in the
but it's very cool. Every place you turn, there's something in a light switch or something in an audio thing. There's some contraption that solves some problem that I didn't even know I had. It's very cool.
Yeah, I love it. I'm glad, Roy, that you went there on that topic of failure. I am 100% on the same page as you, that we as a society, especially right now with the stakes being as high as they are with all this changes coming from AI, have to get more comfortable with getting out there and failing. And I feel like some of the greatest lessons and stories, even for us as founders, come from our failures. It was one of the questions that I actually wanted to ask you, because you kind of talked a little bit about some things like a founder split, and I have no idea if that was an acrimonious or an amicable one. Even, I know growing and selling a business, it never moves in a straight line, and it's like a roller coaster road along the way. But maybe pick a story or two about, you know, where it all went wrong or when it all felt like it was all going to fall apart, and kind of like some of the self-talk as you were working through that.
Mm. What's my favorite failure, you mean? Wow.
Mm,
You know, I think at the end of the day, Darryl, failures, as I look at AI and I think about it, like failure's typically a people problem, not a technology problem, right? And I think, it's can be tough to look in the mirror and see those shortcomings that you may have had with whatever the instance may be. You know, a lot of the founders that I've worked with, and again, I've launched, as Kirk said, I love gadgets and I love products. And, at my heyday, I was launching a new product every single day into the marketplace, and put 4 dozen of them on Shark Tank, right? So I've seen the process from napkin sketch and all the way through. And, we had a really good success rate. I think we were at like 93% success rate in terms of getting a product funded on Kickstarter, and raised, over $1 billion for our clients through that. But also learning that, there's failures that come along the way, and you might make your best guess in terms of who the customer was. Again, thinking, this is 12, 13 years ago. So we didn't really have the AI out here to be able to do all these fast data pieces and big data and all of that. So I think, looking back, failure wise, it would be me taking too much solace of my brain is really big and I know who the customer is and how to reach them and how to target them and shove this product down their throat. When many times, a handful of times, I remember that that was not the case at all. And Roy, you're incorrect. The customer is actually this. And there was a really unique campaign that we did, probably 8 to 10 years ago for a company called Antonia St. New York. And she was bringing a custom molded high heel shoe to market. And you think to yourself, wow, the market's women, right? Like, that work in cities and can afford a $300 custom molded high heel pump. When during the campaign, yeah, we pre-sold, some of them certainly to that demographic, but it ended up being that the largest consumer for the crowdfunding campaign was actually the transgender community, because they couldn't find a custom molded pump in a size 15 shoe for them. And it opened up an entirely new market that I was just like, had no clue about, right? And it was only because, our relationship with Facebook as one of their top marketing agencies and having multiple case studies with them published, that they actually opened up that community for us to be able to, target with advertising that they thought would actually fit. And, I think being so blind to the idea that I'm usually right, and this, evolves into lots of things in life, whether it be with your children or marriage or whatever it may be, like I pretty much have a good sense of what I think is right. But I think, allowing yourself to step back and let the data make some of these decisions, but also people that are smart as well and trusting in them in the process and their expertise. I didn't always leverage that as much as I probably should have.
yeah. And how do you do that? Like you made an interesting comment earlier about, and especially with what's going on with AI right now, the importance of shifting from validation to velocity. But validation is clearly still somewhat important, like we don't want to go ready, aim, fire. But we don't want to go fire, ready, aim, like maybe ready, fire, aim, and then iterate is the right path. But
Yeah, I find that what you have to do is you got to define an ICP, define the product, and then you need a handful of at-bats, right? And then if your at-bats aren't converting to a second, not to closure, right, just to a second meeting, that's the real measure of interest in whatnot. And you have to keep refining the ICP and the product until you've got the conversion rate to that second meeting. And then once you get that, then it's a whole nother series of work to figure out that product market fit and get to the second, phase of that, of middle of funnel, bottom of funnel activities. And I think so many times people try to go from, at least in my experience, I haven't seen a lot of frameworks of exactly how to do this. I see a lot of people that happen to be good at it, but have a hard time explaining how they do it, right? And certainly a lot of entrepreneurs that are uniquely good at this. But so many times people way overcommit way early and they don't know who the actual ideal customer is. They don't know the problem that they actually, it's, how often do we have that problem of the problem we think we're solving and the reason why the person bought it are completely disconnected, right? Like, we think they want it because they want more revenue, more comfortable, they want a bigger shoe. It turns out it's something completely different that we didn't even know, right?
On Money Mavericks, we don't just talk about making money. We explore the innovative strategies and bold decisions that drive real change. Whether you're an experienced investor, a budding entrepreneur, or just someone looking to make smarter financial choices, we've got something for you.
Every week, we're going to sit down with industry leaders, visionaries, and mavericks who share their journeys, challenges, and breakthroughs, from contrarian views on market trends to the secrets behind building a successful startup. You get an inside look at what it takes to thrive in today's economy.
And we promise to keep it real, engaging, and most importantly, actionable. No jargon, no fluff. Just straightforward conversations that you can apply to your own financial journey.
So get ready to challenge your thinking, expand your knowledge, and take control of your financial future. This is Money Mavericks,
where we turn financial dreams into realities and mavericks into legends.
Yeah, I think the beauty, with what I was able to build at my own agency of replacing humans with custom GPTs for every single role, and then streamlining that process now with, hey, we think it's this customer. Where do they hang out? What do they look like? What are some of the problems that they have? Does our product actually fit into there? Mine Reddit for all the data that's in there of people talking about this every day. Launch a landing page that speaks directly to that problem. Send some targeted traffic to it based on who we think our customer is. Evaluate that versus our acquisition costs and make some tweaks or split test a few different variants on there. And do we have something that we want to pursue? That process used to take 6 months. Now we can do that in 6 days, right? And the ability for us to be able to take you from the idea phase of, hey, I've got this thing, to, yes, this is viable. We have to shift a few of these things, and actually this payment process or this feature, this benefit actually is the main thing. What else could we build off of this? And the speed to be able to answer questions now is incomprehensible to me, 15 years ago to what we're able to do today.
So that's where we need to shift and realize that if we use these tools, we can really increase velocity. So we're still validating, but we're using these tools to validate so much more quickly. And then moving off the data points. Is that a right way to frame it?
Yeah, I think we've collapsed the time to make data-driven decisions.
Interesting.
And the ability to get that data. I mean, like, that's, like, so many parts of that. I totally agree. I mean, the funny part we see is what used to take us 8 weeks takes 7 minutes. However, our clients aren't ready for it to take 7 minutes, right? And they still need to go through the journey of the learning and the at-bats in that process to be able to take advantage of the thing, right? And so I can spit you out the answer in 7 minutes. I mean, think about like any weight loss thing. We know what the answer is. Less calories, work out more. The journey of learning how to change the small habits that get you to the point to get the goal you want is the hard part. It's not, we know the answer up front, right?
Do you think some of these things, like, a lot of what you're saying, I can see how that would really apply for like direct to consumer. Do you think it also works for like enterprise sales cycles, like B2B enterprise?
It does, begrudgingly. I think, again, like old school business, this is how we do things, but the evolution speed, I think, is much faster now in terms of evaluating software, seeing if there's fit internally. Does it integrate it into our ERP, CRM, all those acronyms? And then what does it look like to implement, and what do we think the change measurement might be? Like, what's our hypothesis on measured outcomes that equate to dollars and cents? How do we put that in place? Who owns that? Because many times it's not the person that's the director or the head. We see a lot of potential, not necessarily pushback, but certainly hesitancy in terms of organizations that are more conservative and want to, test small and kind of dip their toe into it and do these little things where it's like, no, you need the full thing. If we're really going to do this and stay ahead, this is kind of what it looks like. And it's certainly scary from an implementation side, but I think the risk mitigation side of this is, much stronger in terms of making sure that the internal evangelism process is actually set up and structured in place that it becomes a win. And then you have internal champions that are like, yes, let me own that. Let me work on that. I want to be involved in that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Shifting gears just a little bit. I mean, we've touched on this a little bit, right? We talked about what we're talking about with our kids, right? What we're encouraging them to do. But if you were starting out on your journey today, say you're just like coming into high school and there's all this fear about what trade should I get into? What career should I get into? Should I even go to college or not? If you, Roy, were starting your journey today, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently from what you did when you first started out?
Maybe I stay back a year in high school. Who knows, right? Like that could be a really interesting thought process to stay behind 5 years if my parents allowed it. But I think, it goes to stuff we were talking about early. Honestly, one of the talks that I always give to younger kids is to build their network today. LinkedIn, right? Like every opportunity you have, connect with people because you don't know if they're going to be your boss or your employee in 5 or 10 years, but somehow you can stay connected with people. And I think that was a missed opportunity for me early on where, thousands of kids at the college that were in my same major doing the same things that likely would have been a great network to still stay in touch with because you didn't Facebook friend them or whatever it may be. But like from a more professional side of things, I think, the networking opportunity that's there and potentially building things right with the co-founder. I think, Dan Martell on your show had a great quote where it's like, if there isn't another co-founder that's willing to go along for the crazy ride with you, then maybe it's not something I want to invest into. Right. And I think, as a kid, like hopefully you're able to, figure out those persuasion techniques to bring people on board or just launch the idea and validate the idea while you're still learning. I think I would want to have a business in high school that potentially produced revenue that could be part of my evaluation process of whether I continue to pursue that, have it as a side thing, sell it, or go to college, or pick up a trade that potentially will be replaced by an AI in the next 10 to 20 years, right? Probably something with my hands, whether it be plumbing or HVAC or something where I can just go do the job and come home and not have to think about what I did for Miss Wilson's, converter valve today. Like not have to necessarily worry about all of those sorts of things when having clients on the agency side and services side that, I come home to. So a few different paths there, but I think, building the network is, the real value and community, right? Like all of that community that we have in our mastermind circles and the community of the different groups that we've been a part of, being able to have real conversations with other people that have been through the trenches is so valuable and just levels up your game to just be able to know, hey, they went through this. They've already done this. Their revenue is where I want to be in 3 years or, and then support the other people that are on their way up to try and get to your revenue numbers. But just really being able to tap into that community when needed, when it's like, hey, I got a question or I got a problem. Who can help me with this? That's invaluable today.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's that old adage, the cliche, your network is your net worth, right? And
The new one is right. Your health is your wealth,
yeah,
right? And I think there's so much opportunity there with AI of just uploading all of your data in there and, asking it those sorts of questions. I know I'm taking it on a tangent, but I'm so happy I did this. I just had all of my DNA sequenced, right? So now I've uploaded the report and everything that's in there in my own private, AI server. So now I can ask it all of the questions that are solely based on me, and then all of the data that's out there based on people that have certain whatever it may be, questions that I have health-wise against it, which I think is so valuable to do.
I have a very critical question. Were you in fact related to Inspector Gadget?
I love it. What do you use for a private LLM?
Just internally,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to share that.
Oh, all right. Fair enough. Maybe after the recording. But yeah, I have a dear friend who used to work at one of the FANG businesses who owned a P&L that was well into the 9 digits and had 450 employees under his purview. And most of the AI developers at this particular company worked for him. And he just left to go start a new AI startup and is bringing some of that senior talent with him And the product that they're working on is private LLM that you can install on your own machine that just knows you, that you can feel with confidence that you want to give it all of your emails and, you know, your diary and your journals and all this stuff, and know that you're keeping it private. Because he walked me down this world of like understanding the difference between actually adjusting the weights and a RAG index. And I won't get into it now. If the listeners want to go, you know, do a little bit of research on what the heck a RAG index is and why is it that these GPTs will often only use 5 to 10% of what you actually give it as prompts, and it's the rest of it's parlor tricks. Because most of what in fact, all of what you're putting in through the interface is not actually affecting the weights in the model on the back end. It's an index and it can only use so much of it. But yeah, so he's working to solve that problem. So I'm just curious about this whole world of like private LLMs, because I think that there's a real product to be developed there. I think that that's going to be extremely valuable in the future. I want that.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've watched a couple credit unions use private LLMs instead of like ChatGPT. And the funniest thing that I'll just say is they're 18 to 24 months behind. So everything they're actually trying to do just won't work, right? Like it's so frustrating. You can watch them just get so frustrated because, you know, that's, you know, if you think back to the speed piece, ChatGPT, Grok, all these guys, they know they're just in a speed race, right? Like it doesn't matter outside of that, right? And so, you know, I think that's the real challenge with that LLM is the private one is how do you keep it at, you know, very close to that forefront, right?
Yeah, and I think that's certainly a challenge on the health side because it's changing every day, right? You can pull in new health reports or new things that it's seeing in terms of what's getting published actually, and then pull that in. I think
My approach is, I just create an alternative version of me, right? And then that way it's not me, right? And then you can still use all the stuff in there and it's just anonymized because it's a fake version of Kirk, right?
Yeah, we should get into the AI avatar space and what we're building out now and how difficult it's going to be in the next year or two to actually discern whether or not that's the real Kirk I'm talking to or the real Darryl that I'm talking to.
Yeah, that's fascinating. But I think there's some, like I was listening to a podcast with a doctor, I believe he was out of Stanford, where he said that the GPTs are at the point now where if you're not uploading like your MRI or X-rays or, you know, any of the imaging stuff into an LLM and getting a second opinion or maybe even a first opinion, you're actually being negligent of your health. They're that good.
They asked 100 doctors, would they rather have their buddy board certified read it or AI, and 100 out of 100 said AI.
Wow. That's phenomenal. Yeah, like I had an MRI done on my back recently, and I did that. I uploaded it to a couple of different GPTs and did not upload the report, only the images, and said, you know, what do you see here? And it was shocking. It picked up pretty much everything that was in the report and a couple of new things that the report and my doctor didn't really talk about, that I then came back and talked about with my doctor and said, hey, I'm just kind of feeling some pain over here and like this thing or that thing. What do you think? And he's like, oh, let me take a look at the imaging again. Oh, you know what? Actually, maybe. So it's wild.
It is a third nipple.
But I think that's the scary part, Darryl, right? Like there's so many people that aren't doing this, right? Like that are missing out on life and about the opportunity to continue their life in a healthier manner with the tools that are here today that are free to log into and use and put your data into, right? And I think we're at the point where, again, if they're not willing to upskill themselves or see the writing on the wall, then shame on who, right?
Right. Well, I think I always go back to 1995, Andy Harrington, my buddy in high school, valedictorian, does a website for the school. And me and my 10 best buddies just ridiculed him. This is the dumbest thing ever. No one's ever going to use this. And to this day, every time I'm feeling that uncomfortability, I'm just like, well, Kirk, if in 1995 you had said, that's really interesting, or I'm curious, what else could this be useful for? I would have gone down that rabbit hole and it would have just made the whole .com. The .com stuff was great anyways, but like it would have just doubled that, you know, efficacy instead of being judgmental about it or saying, I don't really know why anybody would ever look up our high school on a website, right?
Yeah, amazing. This has been a super fun conversation. Not at all disappointed that we went down the AI rabbit hole because I think it's just super relevant and you're clearly really passionate and knowledgeable about this, Roy. Thanks for sharing some of your thoughts and all this stuff. I think the main theme out of this on how it's really urgent that you get in there and just start being curious and play with these tools as much as you possibly can. Make it part of your daily life. Get yourself more literate and familiar with it is really huge. But yeah, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing if they want to lean into that?
Yeah, Google me, but you can find my personal website, just roymorejon.com. My consultancy on the AI side is AHEDA, AHEADA, keeping you ahead of what's next. So that's always the best place to be able to find me, or LinkedIn.
Awesome. And we'll throw all that in the show notes as well. But this has been a super fun conversation. Thanks for making the time to chat with us, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Darryl. Thank you, Kirk.
Cheers.
Oh,
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Money Mavericks. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it.
Stay connected with us on social media and visit our website for exclusive resources, episode transcripts, and more.
Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, making smart moves, and turning your financial dreams into realities.
You've been listening to Money Mavericks, where Mavericks become legends.